A portion of this video is sponsored by eufy. So for the past decade or so, the electric car market was Tesla and everybody else. But it's changing now. You have electric cars from established manufacturers and newcomers. So obviously Tesla still, but Lucid and Rivian. And for the past 6 months, I have been driving a Rivian R1T, and I put over 12,000 miles on that truck. Loving that car was not surprising. What was surprising to me was that my wife, who really had no affinity whatsoever for any electric cars, was taking that truck and driving it more often than she was driving her Honda Odyssey. And she drove it so much and loved it so much that when my reservation that I had made years ago for the R1S came up, she said, I want that. So we are now a fully electric, all Rivian family. I want to talk about the pros, the cons, things that we've liked, things I wish could be improved, and I'll talk a little bit more also about why we decided to not go Tesla, at least for these car purchases. I want to start off by just a broad Rivian discussion. So these are my two cars, and from the front, they look exactly the same because they pretty much are exactly the same from the B pillar forward. Both are launch editions, and both are conveniently in launch green because that was available. Instead of waiting for a custom build, we were able to get cars, what our number was called, that were already available, and they happen to be the same color. I don't love having two cars the same color, but I do love the look of the launch green. So broadly about Rivian, I was super concerned about build quality. My VIN on my truck was 1500s, and the VIN on my wife's R1S is 800 or so. So build quality was a gigantic concern, especially coming from 3 Teslas. I'm very attuned to build quality. I was super impressed with the build quality first of the truck. I didn't have any huge panel gaps. Things were installed well. When I do the push test, there wasn't any creaks or rattles. Now after 12,000 miles in 6 months, the car has held up really well. In fact, I just made my first service appointment to only rotate the tires. Nothing else needs to get done. I was impressed with how they handled the recall, how quick and efficient that process was. I've been incredibly impressed with the speed and iteration of the software updates. It's a very consistent one a month where new features are constantly getting added. No CarPlay and Android Auto is still annoying, but seeing things improve has been awesome. Rivian on the software front didn't try to cram a bunch of stuff into their system. Instead, they pared it down, and what they put in there worked really well, and they add features when they appeared to be ready to go. So that I've really liked. The speed of the UI is quick. All of that stuff does not scream first car from a new company. And that, if you have a worry about sort of switching to a company that's unproven, at least you can put those fears, at least that part of those fears, to rest. We have 3 kids, which is why my wife was really excited about the SUV. And in the second row of both the cars, there are some things that I wish would be improved. First, there's no cup holders anywhere in the second row. And for kids that are constantly carrying water bottles around with them, that is a problem. Now you can put down the middle seat, you get 2 cup holders there, but if you're carrying 3 kids, there's no spot for that. So certainly I wish there was an option, or at least an aftermarket option that worked for Rivian to sort out. Aside from that, I don't really have that many complaints. My wife's SUV, the build quality was pretty outstanding. We do have some trim issues that have to be fixed. There's a little bit of a gap on the part of the clamshell design that comes out on the very bottom, you can see here. So that has to go in to get fixed. Those things aside, the build quality has been outstanding, but I do want to see how they fix it before I can finally say that that was perfect as well. And because the R1S is my wife's car, and she's typically driving all 3 kids around, it gets dirty. Her last car was a 5-year-old Honda Odyssey that had a vacuum built in, a vacuum that we use all the time to clean up some myriad combination of Cheerios, sometimes fruit snacks, and other gross things that get stomped into the seats and carpet. But the R1S does not have a vacuum. But fortunately, there's a very easy solution. Enter the eufy Clean Home Vac H20. And eufy is a name you know and trust. They are owned by Anchor, so it's a reputation that has been around and not going anywhere. This thing serves the purpose that it's meant to better than almost any other product that I've used. So whether you have kids or not, you look at the corners of your car seats, there's probably a bunch of gross things in there. Trying to get a vacuum to vacuum that stuff out is hard. And eufy has you covered for that. It obviously has enough suction power to clean up whatever you want. And it's gonna give you 30 minutes of runtime in a really compact package, which should be plenty of time to clean up whatever is happening in your car. And should you need to charge it, say that 30 minutes isn't enough for you, because eufy is an Anker company, they're giving you an Anker charger. You can charge this thing fully in about an hour. And they give you multiple attachments for anything that could happen, and it all stores together in a really kind of small and convenient storage bag. It's also awesome for cleaning carpets, and I put rubber mats in my car because gross things happen. But if you've got carpets in your car, this has you covered. If you also have dark corners, LED lights that are built in so you can see what you are vacuuming. It is really light, convenient to store. It doesn't take up much space if you want to keep this thing in your car at all times. If you want to keep your car clean, you have car seats you want to keep clean, your nooks and crannies are gross, or maybe you are just not the cleanest individual, and I'm not judging you, check out the eufy Clean Home Vac H20. I'll put a link to it down below. I think that the big question, one I've gotten from a lot of people when I've been out and about, is why not Tesla? They're the biggest name in electrics, one of the biggest names in the whole automotive world. I had a few reasons. The big one was I had driven a Tesla for 8 years. My original electric car was an OG Model S. Then I went to a Model X, and then I had a Model 3. They were awesome. I loved every one of them. But I did want to look at something different for the next few years. I just wanted to drive something that wasn't a Tesla because I had been driving a Tesla for 8 years. That was a big reason why I decided to go for the R1T over, say, a Model S or another Model X. The question from my wife was why we decided to go R1S over a Model X. And at the time we made the reservation for the R1S, there was a gigantic price difference. We reserved the R1S at $78,000. And at that same time, a long-range Model X was $95,000. So that was a gigantic difference. My wife liked my Model X. She did not like the doors very much. So an X for her wasn't really an option. She knew she wanted to go electric, and there was nothing else that was on the horizon. So it was really just a Rivian. Those two things aside, I really like having a 360 camera. I think it's awesome to have. It's not necessary. Not every driver needs one, but it always kind of boggles my mind how the Tesla can have so many cameras, but still not offer that 360 camera view. And that was something that she felt very strongly about she wanted to have in her next car. So I think most people, when they think of Rivian, obviously thinking of maybe RJ, the CEO and founder, but thinking of the R1T or the R1S, which makes sense. But they're also working on other things, mainly a new electric Amazon delivery van. You may not know that. Actually, back in 2019, Rivian received around $700 million from Amazon to partner and make about 100,000 custom delivery vans. And it's actually here. I got a chance to take a look at one. Never thought I'd say this, but it's a pretty nice delivery van. I was excited to take a look at it, and it looked really well. And I'm not an Amazon driver. I don't know the pitfalls of delivering a lot of packages, but it worked pretty well. You know, 100% custom interior. They use screens that are really similar and interface similar to the truck and the SUV. Integrated with the Amazon app too to sort of help with navigation. 360 cameras were on board. You got traffic alerts and pedestrian alerts. They had wireless charging built in. A cool thing, I guess, for drivers too, when you put it in park, it actually opens the hatch door to get to the packages automatically, which I guess is important for that line of work. And there's just a lot of space for a package in the back. And the main goal is for Amazon to actually go fully electric by 2040. I think these Rivian vans are a huge step in doing that. This also kind of got me excited for the possibility of a fully electric adventure van in the future. There's nothing official from Rivian on this, so who knows if it'll ever happen. But I do think with this platform, it'd probably make a lot of sense. And like overall, I think it makes me excited for what's next from Rivian. You know, the R2 platform, like everything automotive world, has been delayed. Probably hear something by 2025. Well, I imagine it'll probably be much later than that. Those will be lower cost SUVs and probably a truck that'll qualify for a lot of the tax incentives. The Rivians for me have certainly not been perfect. I understand people are nervous about buying a truck or an SUV from a new company that may or may not be here in a few years. But as somebody who now has put their money where their mouth is and owns two of them, I'm really happy with them. And I think if you are a Tesla fanatic, you already know that that's what you want to drive, and that is awesome. You have that option. But if you are open-minded and want something that's electric and a bit different, I think Rivian is doing a really nice job of sort of filling that market. They're the first electric truck on the market. They're one of the first electric 3-row SUVs aside from the Model X. They are paving a brand new path. I think it's a path that has a lot of appeal to a lot of people. If you are in the market and the price of those cars does not scare you off, I think you owe it to yourself to look at a Rivian. Just be prepared. There's a long, long wait to pick up one of these cars for yourself.